Hi there everybody, this is David. I'm coming to y'all with some pretty interesting news for the Atelier series, because apparently Atelier Ryza was going to be the last game in the series. It was going to be the end, it was going to be the finale, and we weren't going to be having any more games after it unless something changed drastically. And I do want to tell you all about that today, and I do think that that's worth the sub, as I do try my hardest at 100,000 subscribers. With your help, your like, and your sub, I just know that I can get there. So thank you so much for that, and I really do mean that thank you. It really does help me out quite a bit. And all of this comes from an interview with Noisy Pixel from the head of Gust Company, who joined it back in 2007, and then he was appointed to the head of the company in 2020, and he stepped in as producer of the Atelier series right then, and he says, and I quote, "If Atelier Ryza failed, then it could have been the end of the entire Atelier series." And this series has been going on strong for quite a bit of time, for well over 25 years, almost like 30 years now, and this was going to end it all because the other previous games in the series didn't really sell all that well. We're talking like maybe 10,000 copies to, if it was like a hit, 100,000 copies. Like, that's it. And we all know that game development prices are like really on the rise right now, so that just wasn't tenable any longer. And the games that we got here in the West, we didn't get a lot of them. You know, for about 10 or so years, we didn't get any Atelier games at all. The very first one was Atelier Marie back on the PS1, and then it seems like they released like a new Atelier game just about every single year, it seemed. The first ones that we got here in the West weren't even mainline Atelier games. They were the Iris games, the Iris trilogy, which I loved, as well as the Manichemia games as well. And I loved those as well. They were great, they were fantastic, and they made me and a whole lot of other people really fall in love with the Atelier series. But what we didn't really know at the time, like we heard inklings of it at the time, we knew that they weren't the mainline Atelier games, but we didn't really care. Because, you know, Atelier Iris was great, Manichemia was great, and we just assumed that the other mainline Atelier games would be just as great, until they did come out on the PlayStation 3 with the Arlen series, and we found out, yikes, these games aren't so hot. And I'm very sorry to some Atelier fans out there, but I'm just giving my opinion right now. Again, I love the PS2 games, the PS3 games came out, and I was like, what is happening here? What is going on? The Atelier Iris games, like, they were funny, they were full of humor, full of life, full of really fun characters, a lot of great RPG elements. Yeah, there was still item crafting and management and stuff like that, but it wasn't the main focus of the game. The main focus of the game was just RPG elements and fighting and combat and just having a blast with these characters. And then the Arlen series came about on the PS3, and it became like time limits, and it became these like pretty perfect characters. Everything was just too serene, too perfect, too like shiny, and to me just too boring, too rote, too by the book, and too much like, oh my guide going on. And whenever I say that, what I mean is, like, if you didn't follow a guide from like day one till day end, you were screwed. Because those time limits, they weren't playing. Like, if you didn't know exactly what you were doing on each and every day, and you did like one wrong move, you'd be screwed. And you wouldn't be able to get the best ending of the game, or you would miss out on the objective that you were trying to do. And it just made it like unfun. You know what I mean? I just didn't really enjoy it. And all that grit and humor and RPG elements and free exploration of the PS2 games were gone for this kind of by-the-book anime thing with one-note anime trope characters who were just so picture-perfect in every way. So I personally fell off in the series. I played the 3 Arlen games, and then I fell off in the Dusk series, and then I skipped all of the Mysterious series that came out of the PS4. It seems like there was like just too many games, that they came out one after another, and it was like right by the time that I was like, oh, maybe I'll go back and try, you know, that older Atelier game, like a new game came out. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should try the new one. I don't know. But then I would look at the reviews and all that, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, like the time limits are still there. Or, oh yeah, they say this story sucks. or, you know, the combat is just too basic or whatever, and I just never really got into it because I kept on remembering those games on the PS3 and how I just hated them. But then Ryza came in and it switched things up. It really changed everything for the better. You had fast combat, you had great characters, the time limit was gone, and I think it's kind of important as far as I'm concerned. There was equal fan service between the men and the women. You know, you have your thick thighs, and then you have Lent and his abs, you know? So there was some equal fan service right there. Also, item synthesis, while still important, kind of took a back seat because you were able to like automate the item generation and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of like let that go and then go and focus on combat and exploration if you wanted to. And the turn-based combat was still there, but it was just like a lot more complex, a lot more layered. It was a lot more fast. There was a lot more to it. There was a lot going on with the combat to make it very, very, very enjoyable and not basic. Also, the characters weren't one note. They weren't, you know, too pretty, too perfect. They actually had problems. You know, they had real world problems that they had to get through. So that was a nice change in the series, and it just made it more alive, more realistic. And because of all these changes, Ryza was a hit, and it quickly sold over 500,000 copies worldwide, making it the fastest selling entry in the entire Atelier catalog ever. So this was a great commercial success, and it also boosted the franchise visibility, and it also allowed them to pave the way for more sequels. If you know, the other Atelier games, yeah, they took place in like the same universe or same trilogy, but they didn't star the same alchemist. But Ryza kept on starring her and her friends because they knew that it was really good. And in total, the whole series sold more than 1 million units worldwide. And we have some quotes from the head of the Gust Studios, from the producer. He says that popular character designs, you know, thick thighs, an approachable alchemy system, and a narrative about overcoming enormous odds with your friends were key factors in Ryza's breakthrough. Then he goes on to say, for me, Atelier Ryza was the most challenging project ever. The pressure was incredible, but it ended up opening up new doors for the entire franchise. And this success ensures that Gust can experiment more freely in the future. So they are going and they are experimenting. They're using that extra influx of cash to do more with the series. So this is really, really good news that the games weren't canceled, because if this wasn't a hit, then it would have been. And we're also really, I am happy at least, that they're also looking into the history of the series and they're saying, hey, you know what, we have all these great stories that were told, but nobody really played the games. Maybe we can go back and remake them, inject some Ryza goodness into it, and, you know, let them soar. Also, we know that Atelier Lumia is coming up, and I, for one, cannot wait for Atelier Biatch to go on in and kick ass and take names, because the series just seems to be doing so, so well, and we do have Ryza to thank for that. So I just thought this was a very, very, very interesting article, an interesting interview, and I just wanted to share it all with y'all, as well as my thoughts on it. So now I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think about Atelier Ryza and the series in general. Let's all talk and chat about it, and as always, have a good day.